For me, art is about communication, and I think when I was 19 and I took a ceramics class, I realized that there was a language that I had no idea that it existed until I had wet clay in my hands.
The sciences and the arts are all engaged in looking at the world and trying to decode the world, understand the world, and experience it with eyes that are fresh and creative and insightful. Harder, and I can really feel how much harder it is because it's so much cooler.
I'm trying to relate my artwork with identity. I mean, it's been great. Professors have supported me well, and they've given me a lot of advice and really motivated me and really challenged my limits.
So this is one of the prints I did in Australia. We were in Melbourne, and what I find really appealing about printmaking is this way that you start looking at the world in terms of these layers, I guess, and so and the layers that all kind of come together to condense to make this 3D form. But with printmaking, you leave it to some other force. There's just something that happens in the acid, and there's only so much you can control. So when you pull a print, it's the most exciting thing. You know, you're just like, what is it going to look like?
The way I think about it is I think art is about putting an experience in context, to contextualize your experience, to make sense of the world around us and the way we relate to it. And so I think that's valuable for anybody. And I think it's also about paying attention. This is a kind of attention that you don't really need in everyday life for getting around in the world. But once you start to have to depict something or to look to render form, you start to see the world in a way that I don't think that you do otherwise.
I have a number of physics students who take metalsmithing. It's a curious and wonderful relationship between physics and metalsmithing, because we are soldering and doing things at such an absolute basic way of working with materials, and so many students have said it helps them to think about physics problems by working with their hands and seeing visual examples of how metals bond to one another.
And a scientist taking an arts class learns to see in a different way, learns to experience their environment with a different perspective, and learns to relate directly to physical experience in a way that only happens in an art class.
For me, there are things that can be communicated to other people that just can't happen through words, but they happen through imagery, and they happen through sharing space with objects that are created by someone else's hand or by your own hand. So for me, art is something that is just profound to my being. I can't imagine how I would participate in my world without making objects.